Hi everyone, and welcome back to it. It like almost never fails. Most of the time when I start these off, I just start giggling at first, and it's so interesting because I really come in with like a very serious attitude a lot of the time. So I guess maybe it's just a reminder to lighten up, even though it's deep and even though it's serious, to still try to lighten it up. So hi everyone, welcome to Dimensional Wellness. This is DeeDee, and today we're going to be talking about something really interesting. This is one that I did post on my channel before, but I took it down, and I'm going to repost it. I'm going to try to keep these up. I have so many times that I do like podcast, and like I've had a podcast where, actually that one is still up. The one that I had the most amount of content on is actually still up. But I just didn't want to transfer all of my stuff from Spotify. That's not the point. The point is I'm going to try to really leave these up. So anyways, today we are going to be talking about the Santorini Council, which it actually could be a Phoenician council. So originally I put this as a Santorini council, but it could have been a Phoenician council. It could be both. I don't know. I've been really entertaining the idea, as of lately, especially last month, about gods and goddesses reincarnating as other gods and goddesses. I do past life work, and I'm really trying to get really deep into it, but I'm really trying to figure out what I want my niche to kind of be. Because as I've been doing it for people, I realized that it really, in my opinion, for me, I don't think that everyone is ready for past life work. And it could just be me, and my set of guides and things like that. But it's a really deep process, and sometimes what is going on Earth and in someone's incarnation right now is much more important than where they have been before, and even where they're going in the future. And so I've been really trying to kind of narrow down exactly what niche I want to work with and what, sort of things that I want to do with past life work. Because it's very energy intensive. Like, I have not had a past life regression yet where afterwards I didn't sleep like 3 hours afterwards. And so it ends up being like literally an all day event. Now I'm sure, as I learn about, not taking in as much energy as an empathic person and, selective empathy, I guess. Oh my gosh, these cars almost just hit each other. Like, what are they doing? As I kind of learn how to not be as empathetic, I don't really know exactly how, but energy dynamics, I'm sure it'll take less time and it won't be as intense. But right now, like, I kid you not, I sleep like 3 hours after each session just because it's so intense of a process. So anyways, let's get to this dream time today. Oh, okay. So in this dream, I woke up and I'm orienting myself as I usually am. And I was walking, it was Ray and I, and we were walking to this really beautiful hotel. Oh my gosh, it was so nice and luxurious, and it was super fancy and all of these things. And anyways, we were going directly to this hotel, right? And I knew that we were in what looked like Santorini in Greece. It has like those white, I don't know if they're adobe buildings. I don't know what they're made out of, but the traditional hallmark, white buildings with the bright pink and blue flowers with the beautiful waters. And so I was like, ooh, this is going to be fun. I was like really excited, but I knew that we were in like a serious mode though. So it felt like I was walking to court. That's what I felt like. And a little bit of background, up until I had my spiritual awakening in 2013, I was actually on the track of actually becoming a lawyer. That's been like my lifetime goal since I was like really, really little. And then I had a spiritual awakening in 2013, and that put a halt on literally everything. And it's really funny because in the Astrals, like I actually am like a spiritual judge, which is very interesting. So anyway, so it felt like I was walking to court. And so I knew that we had to get into this hotel because this is where something was being held, okay? So I get into the hotel and I see all of these people. And I know that there are some people that are going to the hotel to just stay and, you know, have a vacation. And then there's some people who there is some type of court situation going on, right? And so I know immediately that we're going to a specific meeting room. And this is a very specific meeting room. So it, like, if you weren't paying attention in this hotel, you would miss it because it kind of looked like a meeting room, but the doors were different than all the other doors that I remember seeing. And these were like really tall, like huge brown, like thick wooden doors, okay? And it was a very interesting color brown too. So I'm not sure exactly what type of brown, but it was a very, very specific brown color. I don't know. And so so we end up going through these doors, and immediately I remember why I'm there and what I'm doing. And when we step through the doors and they close, we are in this ocean, kind of. We're like in this kind of ocean, but it is like set up kind of like a baptismal pool almost. But it's an ocean, but there are like white stairs under it, like a pool has. Yeah, but it goes out to the ocean. So you have like, I think it was like 7 or 9 stairs. And at the very bottom is like the ocean. Okay. So you have like 7 stairs and then the ocean. Okay. So I had some of my family was also on the stairs. Some of my family were on the stairs. Wait, because I'm talking about them as like a collective. So the fish were moving. Okay. Some of my family were on the stairs. Ooh, struggling, okay? I'm just going to say it differently. I saw a few of my family members also on the stairs. There we go. Struggling, okay? Okay. So I had like a family member on, the second stair from the bottom. Then I had one that was kind of like on the 4th stair from the bottom. And then it was Ray and I. We were on the either 5th or 7th stair. So we're like 2 from the top, because I don't remember if it was 7 or 9 stairs. So we're like 2 from the top. Okay. And then I had another family member who was on the either 6th or 8th stair. Okay. And so I realized that we were supposed to be doing a judgment today, that this was court. It was like spiritual court. Okay. And so, Ray and I were both on the stair together, but he was kind of like just waiting on me to like do the judgment. Like he was just like, yeah, you do it. And so I'm like, okay. And then I looked up to the family member who was on the 8th stair, and she also kind of felt like, you just do it. Like it was kind of like the upper 2 stairs were more about overviewing the judgment, right? So there is the judge, and then the 8th and 9th, or 7th and 8th stair were about overviewing the judgment that has been passed. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess it's me today. And so as I'm looking out, and it's funny because I do mention his name in my previous podcast, if you find it online. But today I want to like do a little bit of discretion. And I guess it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I'm just going to go with the feeling that I have. So I'm going to give him a different name, and we're just going to call him, Jim today. Okay. So there's this famous actor named Jim. Okay. And Jim is standing in the ocean area. So even when you get down from the first step and you're in the ocean, you're not just like in the midst of the ocean. There's still sand right there. So it's almost like you're on a shoreline. So you're not deep into the waters yet. And so he was standing down there, and I was kind of like overviewing mentally what was going on. And so pretty much what had happened was that he had killed someone that we had put on the planet, I guess, for a very specific mission. Now, right now in this moment, I cannot remember if it was like a malicious intent or if it was accidental. But I feel like it was kind of a combination of both. So I don't think that he went into it with the intention to kill this person, but there was definitely like anger and stuff involved. Like it almost felt like an accidental killing, though they could have been like fighting or something. And so I was like, okay, let's see, because it was about him killing, right? That was a part of this punishment, or this judgment was about the killing. But more than anything, it was about the specific person that he killed, right? Because when you kill someone, then you are taking out the whole timeline of possibility of all the people that they could, influence. And so it was about the killing, but in all honesty, this is what passed through my mind is like, you know what I'm saying? People like kill people all the time. Like that's been going on for like thousands of years, like unfortunately. And not to sound like not empathetic, but I'm just saying like that is not a new occurrence. And so when you deal with Earth, you deal with violent deaths and things like that. But this person, it did not seem like this death was justified. Now, I'm saying that with the asterisk mark as well, right? Because really, there's no such thing as a holy war. That's period. And there is no justified killing. That's also period. But what I mean when I'm saying justify is, I guess justify is not the right word. Permissible, let's say that, because all things are not just, but some things are permissible. So there's an understanding as to how it could have gotten that way, right? So like you honking at someone and taking out a gun and shooting them because they cut you off in traffic is not permissible, like at all. However, if there is a situation where, let's say, something crazy is going on and someone is, sexually assaulting a child or something like that, and in the rage you strangle that person, that is permissible. Sorry to say it, but it is. You know what I mean? Like someone is aggressive towards you. Wow. And I kid you not, there literally is a turtle dove that literally just flew right in front of the car and landed. And like I have connections to doves. Oh my gosh, you better not. Okay. Because it like landed in front of the car, but it's like out in the street. It's just like chilling there, just looking for some food, I guess. And there's this car, whenever I see pigeons and, any kind of bird or whatever, there's a lot of pigeons, crows, doves out here. I always go out of my way to make sure that I do not hit them, but everybody does not do that. Okay, bye, friend. Okay, she went to go sit in a safer place, which is a good idea. Okay, so anyways, permissible versus not permissible. And so anyways, so it seemed like there was a greater degree of accountability for him, because it was kind of a situation where he should have made a different decision. Now we start talking about spirituality involved, right? That makes it even more complicated about what is permissible, right? Because in a certain sense, we would say that, tapping into your intuitive abilities and things like that, you should be able to tap into discernment, which predicts the future for you. And so discernment is seeing what's going to happen and, either lining up with it to make sure it happens or moving away from it so it doesn't. And I'll give you a very, very brief example, okay? Let's say that you did something wrong or whatever, and you have someone who's not going to be happy about it, but you make the decision anyway, right? Like, okay, don't be mad, but that level of discernment is like, they're going to be mad, right? So that is the discernment. Like, you're prefacing it with like, don't be mad, because they're going to be mad. And so, and I'm not saying it's an easy thing, because I still struggle with this even in my life to this day, right? These are things that we are, working on as a collective. But that is the discernment, to let you know how it's going to go. And so hopefully you get to a point to where you are not making those decisions, because you can see how it goes. And so you shift your actions to shift the result. So anyways, so it seemed like there was some type of level of accountability. And so my judgment was, okay, well, why don't you just die here in the pools? You can just sacredly drown. I'm serious. This was like the judgment. And in my mind, in the dream, it made sense. I was like, you know what? You can just pass away, because you only have one life to exchange. And that's what I was letting him know. I was like, the only life that you have to barter is yourself, which is why killing someone is such a it's much more dire of a situation as like the absolute last stitch effort of whatever trying to resolve, because you only have one life to exchange. And you better make sure that if you're doing that you have a really, really, really good reason as to why, to where it qualifies, let's say, as permissible, right? Because let's say like with security officers, and I'm not talking about every situation, because of course it does matter like what the circumstance, it is case by case to a certain extent. But let's say, like someone is just resisting arrest and then you shoot them in the back when they're leaving. That's not permissible. And so your life is on the line for that in a certain sense. But let's say that, like you should be able to detain someone. Like there should be a lot of different levels of options before you get to just death. And that's not taken as seriously here on Earth. Like it should be a lot more levels. You have the option of tasing someone. You have the option of tackling them. You have the option of even, maybe putting them into a chokehold. Even I saw these guns recently on Instagram, which I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And where it shoots out darts that, have, what do you call it? Have a tranquilizer in it. And so you're shooting a dart at them to tranquilize them versus kill them. Now, of course, with that, there might be accidental deaths and all type of things, because nothing is, 100% perfect. It doesn't mean that, you're going to immediately, inhibit them. They could still fire off a weapon at you or something. But it's like at least the first step in figuring out like what are some other options, because death is to a certain extent a permanent option when this situation that's going on, no matter how bad it is really temporary. And so anyway, so I was letting him know, I'm like, this is not permissible to the point to where you're not going to have to pay with your life for this. And so I was like, you could go through life, trying to make up for it and, turn your life around and, do all of these things. But at the end of the day, there's not enough chickens or people that you could put them on a right path that's going to pay for this person's life. Sometimes you can substitute and sometimes you can't substitute. And I was like, this is a part where you can't substitute, because with the reincarnation wheel, with this energy, we're going to have to put him back in the timeline in a different body, as a baby, and he's going to have to grow up, and then not only grow up, but he's going to have to get this level of enlightenment that it didn't seem like this person had even reached yet already in this life. He's going to have to get this enlightenment in order to actually help these people. And he's still going to have to grow up and everything. And so he's going to be at least, like, let's say 20 years behind schedule if we reincarnate him right now, which there's like a whole process. So it's not just like, snap your fingers and now this soul is in this body. Like, it's a whole process. So at the very least, it's going to be 20 years. And that's if, at 20, he's ready to take on, this awakening process, right? Because, realistically, by maybe 25, maybe 26, 30, some people don't get to it at all. And so I was like, you're really putting things behind schedule when you really could have just, like, grabbed your anger and sat with it and realized it's a temporary situation. And it wasn't saying that, what our guy did wasn't, probably annoying and foolish too. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at a black and white, this guy is living and this guy is dead, period. And so, yeah, that's when I was like, okay, well, it seems like, the answer here is that, you might as well just give your life now and then reincarnate. And then you're going to find him and you're going to make amends with him. So you guys are going to reincarnate together and you're going to find him and make amends that way. Because, also with these energies, and this is also like another overview energy, right? It's not always this case. But the overall energy is that when you kill someone pretty much it has to do with killing. When you kill someone, right? Miasma, you have this black cloud over your soul. Then the true way that you get the miasma off of you is that you have to bring them back to life, or you have to atone with them in the same lifetime. So that spirit has to forgive you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, like, God forgiving you is one thing. You forgiving yourself is another thing. And then the person that you actually did the wrong to forgiving you is usually the hardest one. And it's actually the most impactful one, which is the concept about, Sleeping Beauty and true love's kiss is the only thing that can awaken her. And people always try to go through loopholes and stuff like that, but that's just what the situation is from this standpoint. Okay, so we come to an agreement. I'm explaining it to him. I'm letting him know what the protocols are, letting him know what the overall judgment is, and we actually come to an agreement. So Jim is about to just peacefully pass away in the bath right there, which for the time period and what had happened, I'm like, this is like a pretty good deal. You're still dying, but this is like a pretty good deal, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have been, trampled by a horse or, some crazy stuff like that. But, you get to die in a sacred place. We talked directly, so it wasn't like a messenger that got sent. Even though in a certain sense I was a messenger of a higher power, but I was pretty much, pretty close to what you would get. And so I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. I'm feeling pretty decent. I'm like, it's unfortunate that he also has to die, but I think that this would be like the best outcome right now. And then, we're in the hotel, and so, it'll just appear to everyone. And I want to say this very, very tenderly. because I know that some people will have connections to something like this. And I want to say it very tenderly, that this might not always be the case. But I also do want to say that sometimes it is the case. So I knew that once we left this judgment center, that him dying in the sacred pool, and then being reincarnated, that he, in our world, like once we left there and we were back in quote unquote the real world, something like he might not die immediately, but like maybe within the week. But if he did die immediately, it would seem like just as though, he, might have overdosed on some drugs or something like that and died in the hotel unexpectedly. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's like a way that it appears in physical reality. So, stuff like that, very strange, kind of odd, out of the blue occurrences. Okay. So like I said, again, that's not always the case, but that is sometimes the case on how certain things happen and it's unexplained. Sometimes it is something like that. And so anyway, we're about to, get the process started. And all of a sudden, I got this, all I can really describe it as is like a blank in my brain. Okay. And it's really funny because like before this dream, I thought that blanks were like them taking information. And sometimes it could be, but in this moment, I knew that it was actually moving my thoughts out of the way for someone to upload some information. And so it's very interesting how it appeared as a blank in my mind. So, sometimes you can think that it's like a clearing as far as like nothing in your mind, when it's actually a space for something to upload something into your mind. So I was like, hold on, something's going on. And so my mind was blank for a second. And then when I got my thoughts back, I immediately knew that there was an energy, and this felt primarily like a male energy. I do want to say that. A male energy that had passed a judgment on him. And so this male energy, so I don't know how to really describe it other than this was definitely like it's God, but it's a very specific God. Okay. And I don't remember exactly who it was at that point, but it was a very specific God. Okay. And he was not in the dimension with us. He was outside of the dimension. But of course, he was very, very aware of what had happened. And so, it felt like this guy, we speak on behalf of him. And pretty much most of the time, he is fine with our judgments, because we've gone through some type of, soul lessons and have grown spiritually, like things like that. And so we pretty much know what the judgment should be, what is something that is just, right? But in this case, and in very rare cases, he makes an appearance. And I would say that most of the time, if he's making an appearance, it's not good news. And so what I got from this little upload, this little unit of information that was uploaded, is that he wanted me to let Jim go. Ooh. He wanted me to let Jim go, that he didn't want Jim to die that day. And so I had to relay the news to him. So he had, in a sense, overruled my decision and was like, no, I want to deal with him personally. And I was like, ooh, yikesington. That's not a good idea. That's, not a good idea. Not that it wasn't a good idea. That's not what I mean to say. But I was just like, ooh, that's not good news. And so I had to relay the message to him as best as I could. And I was like, okay, so the thing is that you're not going to pass away today. and this God has spoken, and he wants to deal with you directly. And so Jim was taking it as though I was saying that, that's like, he was like off scot-free, right? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. But he was just like so in a blissful, it was like so wild. He was like so in this blissful state that he was saying that, like, he thought I was saying that God, you know, I'm just going to call him God, that God, or well, I'll call him Gad. We'll say it a little bit differently. I'll call him Gad, okay? We'll say that Gad. We'll say that Gad, he thought I was saying that Gad was saying that he was free to go. That, like, he was totally absolved of everything and, you know, like, oh, I understand, man. And I was like, that's not what I'm saying. He was such in a blissful state that I couldn't really relay what I was trying to say to him. And so I was like, oh, okay, I guess he's going to find out. He's going to find out. And so we left this room. Everybody leaves. And that's when I go out and I see, now I'm going to mention this guy's name because he wasn't directly the one that got this judgment, okay? So I did end up seeing that guy, Seth Green. Is that his name? Seth Green? You know, in Child, I don't even know what movie that is. What movie is that? It's Seth Green, though. I'm pretty sure it's Seth Green. And then, like, two other actors that I don't remember exactly who they were. But they were waiting for him to get out. So they knew that he was going to this court also. They came with him as, like, a support system. So when he came out looking all blissful and happy and stuff, the Seth guy looked at me and was like, how does it feel to know that your God is a fraud? That's literally what he said. And I was like, okay. I'm like, okay. And so he was like, nothing happened to him. He was like, and then like he started like bumping the guy's arm, you know, Jim's arm. And it's like, yeah, man, that's why I don't even believe in spirituality and blah, 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 blah. It's all a joke. You can get away with anything, bro. You know, just like spewing a whole bunch of foolishness, right? And so I got a little bit triggered. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little bit triggered. And so I was like, no, your friend is taking this all the way wrong. I did not tell him that he was free to go. I didn't tell him that everything was fine. What I told him was that this God is going to deal with him directly. What that means is that you could die in an airplane explosion. You could be, die in some kind of freak accident. You know, there's like a lot of different examples that I gave, but I know that some people are going to have like, you know, it could be a trigger for certain people because you've had experiences like this or people have died these type of ways. And so I was like, the way that he deals with certain people is very spontaneous. And that has to do a little bit with like time dilation also. But he deals with you in that way to invoke a certain feeling so that you have almost like an imprint on your soul to remember not to do this in the next lifetime. I was like, it would have been better for him to pass away in that courtroom, so to speak, because at least he knew exactly what he was getting himself into, exactly what the terms and the conditions were. Like when he deals with you directly, you don't know what the terms and conditions are. You don't know how long it's going to be, and you don't know when it's going to happen. You know, and the best way that I was like describing it was like kind of in relation to like mafia, you know, kind of activities and stuff. You know, like when you're doing stuff and you just know just with the nature of the job, right? That at any moment something can happen to you. You know, selling hard drugs and you're selling a lot of them, you know, at any moment something can happen to you. And even if it doesn't happen by, you know, retaliation, killing, or, you know, the worst things that they do, you know, spiritually speaking, something is coming if you haven't gotten, you know, something in the physical world. You know that spiritually when you cross over, maybe some people don't know that, but spiritually when you cross over, everyone has to pay the piper. Everyone. even if it's someone that we consider to like not be that essential to the timeline, there isn't a justified killing someone regardless, even if we feel like, oh, that person was just, you know, another drug dealer, or, you know, that person was like a homeless guy, wasn't adding anything to society, you know, whatever humans say, you know, especially people who think that some people are just like NPCs, which means that they're just like sitting ducks and just flesh and bone with no consciousness. You know, none of them can you kill them. They're all essential. And I'll talk about the NPC concept at a later time, but there are no NPCs in that way. In general, NPC, or someone you consider to be an NPC, means that their consciousness is resonating below the third dimension. The third density or dimension. I'm going to have to see which one is which. But in a sense, it's resonating below what we consider to be standard human consciousness that people come in with, babies and stuff like that. And so in a sense, they seem to be on repeat, you know, but it's really just that they have personal cycles that they, through a lot of different things, they are not strong enough or don't have the willpower to break themselves out of a cycle. And as you break cycles, you expand. It's kind of like locks on the dimensions of your energy. So as you break these cycles, you expand and you unlock, which, you know, brings you up in dimensions, in tiers of reality. And so, yeah, I pretty much got the point across, and everyone pretty much left that area understanding what I was talking about. And then as we were walking out, there's like this older black gentleman who walked up to Ray. And, you know, I'm like definitely the more vocal and more stern one of the couple. However, Ray and I agree on a good amount of things. Of course, we have certain key differences and things like that. But in general, overall speaking, we have very, very similar thought patterns and belief systems on overall concepts. Now, the way to get to these conclusions or what you do in the meantime, we can differ and vary on. And so I'm just saying that because this guy came up to him and was like, you're married to a demon. You're married to a devil. She doesn't speak for God. It says in the Bible that blah, 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 whatever. And so I was still triggered from that conversation. So I was letting him know, I was like, you have no clue what these terms are that you're using. And there's no possible way that you could write down the entirety of the universe in one book. It's just not a thing. You can't write down the entirety of how the universe works in a book. And even if you could by chance do that, when you understand that the energies predate the words and the concepts, you realize that what the Bible is more of like a check mark system, kind of. So it gives you examples, and then it gives you check marks on, okay, in this situation, this is what this person did. And it's up to you to decide whether this was a justified action, whether they did a good job in making this decision. And then even when it seems like it's permissible by God, is it still the right thing to do? Do you understand what I'm saying? It's very much like TV. A lot of people, like there's some people that tell me what their favorite TV shows are, like especially like growing up and stuff like that, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're actually living that out in real life right now. Like in real time, your life is this TV show. And I'm like, but the kind of negative aspect of that, especially when you're dealing with like really, really basic concepts that repeat over and over again in movies, you know, like pretty much there's some type of coming up story. So it's like some person that, you know, is disadvantaged or poor, something like that. And they have this dream of being this big time person, or they feel called by God to do something really huge. Then they go into this field and then they're kind of like berated or, you know, shut down because, it's not what's usually done. But since they're tapped by God, they can do it. So they have to fight through all the adversity. There's usually a love interest. Most of the time, there's problems with the love interest. They do some stuff that, hurts the relationship with the love interest. Then they have to go through that and, raise their heart frequency or whatever, hopefully. And then maybe at the end, when everything is going good and they have this big major event where everyone sees that they're the chosen one, then they get the love interest and everybody lives happily ever after, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't even want to talk about the normality right now in love stories, because those are so tragic. It's like every time you see a love story, it's like this person and, they're really not trying to be bothered with love, or they're not really interested in love. And, they're like big time corporate CEO or, woman, and she's just about her business and blah, 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 blah. And then there's this person that comes around that either is not on their level or like someone that they wouldn't expect. And that person gives them a different perspective of life. And so, that person might go through a phase where they don't want to accept this new person. So they go back to old type of love interest or exes, and they have sex with that person. They might have sex with a whole bunch of different friends, all type of stuff. And then at the end of it, magically they get together and they knew that it was each other the whole time. And then it ends happily ever after. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they have very common themes. But the tough thing about movies and TV shows is that it's really just dictating to you a commonality in reality. It's actually not giving you a solution to anything. And do you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to come to your own conclusion about the TV show or the movie. And some people just go with like what the instructions are, and they don't do like a deep contemplation about, especially like in love movies, this person ends up with like half of New York, and then they come back to this person who's like the ugly duckling or whatever, and then it's like, okay, they finally get together and that's the end of the story. It's like, yeah, but if you know human interaction, you've been in a long-term relationship, then that that's not the half of the story at all. That they're probably not going to stay together. It's going to be more drama, and it's probably going to be a really, really terrible breakup eventually. Even if they get married and have kids and blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of like that. So anyways, I read him his rights. And then I woke up. And it was such a deep and powerful dream about just so many different concepts. But life is really about contemplation. And it really takes a thought pattern and an evaluation of how things are going. Or else you can get stuck in all of these kind of reactionary actions towards things. And then you might end up accidentally like stepping on a landmine of something that you didn't know physically would be an issue. But spiritually, it's a horrible issue. So I thought that would be interesting. And when I looked into Santorini, it's really, really deep, especially when you look into the Hyksos pharaohs going into Egypt, and possibly they were Palestinians, and, the connection with Santorini and Phoenicia, especially the structure and how it was built. It's really, really deep. So I challenge you, if this really resonates with you, if you've had similar dreams or similar experiences in the astrals, or maybe even in life, to look into those connections. I could go into a lot of it, but it's going to make it like really, really long, and I'll probably just do it in another video. But yeah, make sure that you come back and see me. That was just really deep and crazy. And yeah, subscribe. I'm not gonna even finish it because it don't even feel like that should even go here. So that's a little bit of spiritual information to pay attention to energy dynamics and really, really take certain decisions very seriously. Yeah, and that's what I have, friends.